All right, super common question that I get from parents of teens is how do I get my teenager involved in church? And typically the context of that question is what drives the answer. And the vast majority of the time, the context is that they've got a child, a teenager, preteen, somebody who's acting out and behaving in ways that they don't like. And so they feel like if their child could just get a little bit more Jesus or God in their life, that things would change. They would then behave and be compliant, honor your mother and father. The whole spectrum, right, with it. So it's a bit of a loaded question. So in a sense, the parents are asking, saying, I need help with my teen, and I'm hoping this is a quick fix. So if I can usually unpack the question a little bit to figure out why they're asking, then I can give them a better answer. But if it's just a standard question of how to get my teen more involved in church, there's two parts to that. One, if you don't care what church they get involved in, it's a little bit easier. If you're trying to find a way for them to get involved in your church, then the question is a little bit more complicated. Because if they're not going to your church, they've already kind of made a statement that they don't like your church. And a lot of times as parents, we have this kind of utopian ideal that our whole family's going to love going to church together, we're going to sit and worship, but the reality is that most churches are just not suited well for everybody in your family. Think back to how many times you're sitting in the car or you're with your whole family and you say, hey, where do y'all want to go to eat? How often does everybody land on the same place? Well, just imagine that you tell your family, hey, every Wednesday night for the next 10 years, we're all going to go to the same restaurant and order the same thing. They're not going to want to do that, There might be one person who's like, yeah, that's my favorite restaurant. Yeah, I love the way they do this. But everybody else is going to be like, geez, that does not sound, can we go to some other place and do some other things? It's because we all have different things that we need out of life. And when it comes to church, family members are the same way. I don't know how many times, even talking with a married couple, you have one person who loves the church and one who goes because the other person loves it, but they don't really get anything out of it and they don't really complain. Or if they do, it's kind of in a passive-aggressive way. And the kids may have had a great time, when they were young and they had those two Sunday school teachers they really loved, but then they get some Sunday school teachers that aren't so great and they don't really like going anymore, on and on and on and on. So you got to start as if it's this utopian view that everybody's going to get on Sunday morning excited about going to church and being involved in that. That's not normal for that to happen. I've been in churches that have great children's ministry and youth ministry. And one of the weird things that we had to navigate was we built this super attractive ministries for children and youth to where they would want to go and they would beg their parents to go. But as soon as the kids graduated from high school, their parents quit going to church, right? So they would transfer and go to a church where their friends were. So the deal is, if you just have this utopian idea that everybody's going to want to get up and go to church together, that's probably not going to happen. But the bottom line is, kids go where their friends are. It really doesn't matter what particular thing you're talking about, whether you're talking about church, whether you're talking about restaurants, whether you're talking about events, those kind of things. Kids go where their friends are. And so if your church has a youth group where their friends aren't there, they're probably not going to want to go. So if you want them to be involved in church, what you need to do is connect with parents of their friends who are going to church somewhere and have them invite your son or daughter to go with them and let them go there. So it becomes an issue of your kids being involved in a faith community somewhere, not so much about this ideal view that you have of everybody being together, because ultimately kids go where their friends are. And there's churches that have built their entire church on this idea. They have a great youth ministry and the kids invite their friends and they come and do that. And it's not unusual, as I said, for parents to follow their kids to a church and go to one that they don't really like that much just because that's where their kids want to be. I hear that a lot. So that's kind of how it works. Just know that if you're trying to get your kid involved in church. The other part is if they're there, I would say definitely junior, senior year, maybe in sophomore year, odds are low. If they haven't been involved in church prior to that, and you're trying to do this as kind of a bailout thing to get them out of trouble or solve something, yeah, your odds are really, really low that you can be able to get them convinced to start going to church somewhere, even if their friends invite them and that kind of thing, just because there's a lot of other stuff, deeper stuff going on. And if you're trying to deal with really bad behavior, risky behavior, dangerous behavior, church is probably not your best step. You probably need to get involved with a counselor somewhere. And even if you're the only one going, your kid doesn't go, get some professional help to kind of navigate those challenges. But don't dump that on the youth pastor. Think that somehow youth pastor is going to undo what's happened in your kid's life for 15 years leading up to that. So hope this helps.